Yesterday, the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffery, launched the National Action Plan, or NAP, to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. This is the culmination of widespread consultation with various stakeholders. Now, the plan includes the identification of laws that need to be amended to protect victims of racism. It'll also collect data of racial incidents to determine how to combat it. So to tell us more, we're joined by the Deputy Minister, John Jeffery, and he is in our Pretoria studios. Minister, thank you very much. Great to have you on the program.
Morning, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
All right, so give us a little bit more meat to the National Action Plan. What's it all about?
All right, there's two dimensions to it. The one is a international, it's a response to our international obligations. South Africa hosted a world conference against racism some time ago, and undertakings were made at that conference by countries that they would come up with national action plans on racism. So this plan is in compliance with the United Nations guidelines, and it will be deposited with the United Nations. So that's the one level, the one dimension. The other aspect, the other level is obviously, as South Africa, as a country, we seriously need a plan like this. And it's a 5-year plan, which will then be subject to review at the end of that process.
Yeah, I like the way you say we seriously need something like this. We desperately do as a nation, because it just appears that more and more we get divided, whether it be by race, religion, xenophobia, you name it. We seem to have become more and more intolerant of one another. What do you believe is at the root of all of this?
Look, there's a number of factors. It's obviously our history of colonialism and apartheid. It's divisions over resources. You know that poverty in South Africa has a black face. So it's a variety of factors like that. Maybe just to say with the plan that it's not a reinvention or a dramatic new invention of anything. It's more trying to complement existing programs, policies, strategies, both from government and from civil society. Civil society in its different components, the media, sporting bodies, etc.
How will it work, though? I mean, let's get an understanding. So we launch the NAP. But what do we do? I mean, will we see prosecutions from this? Is it just a complaining voice board? What is it?
No, it's a comprehensive plan. So it starts with an analysis of South African society. It does identify that things like the land issue, things like poverty, unemployment, and inequality are things that divide us. And it's then a number of different strategies from different sectors, but it will be setting up a coordinating body of government and civil society to monitor the implementation of the plan over the 5 years and to look at how it can be improved.
I mean, I'm reading about the plan also to start a racism database. What is that going to be? How is that going to work?
Well, part of the plan is also collecting information on incidents, but also places that people can go to when they are victims or the subjects of racist or xenophobic attacks. Remember, it's not just racism, it's racism and xenophobia and related intolerances. So it would include any form of intolerance, sexism, homophobia as well.
Yeah, there's also the looking into the media and the mass media, and in terms of what they do, or we do, I should say, because we are the media, where we talk about, you know, the perpetuation of racial discrimination by the media. How is that going to be analysed and looked at?
Well, one of the bodies that we'd wanted, or that have been part of the process, but they also need to engage with it further, is the South African National Editors Forum. But I think that every sector of society in South Africa needs to look at how it is dealing with the issue of racism. And it might be subtle issues. So there will be complaints that you often see from members of the public that if it is if it's a white victim or a white perpetrator, they're treated differently in the media to somebody from another race.
And it is, I mean, something like this is so vital to get to the bottom of the root causes of racism. And I know that at the end of the day is what you're trying to figure out and find out what it is, where this all comes from. I believe that there's also a partnership with the United Nations. Can you tell us about this?
Well, as I said when I was explaining the plan, it's complying with an international obligation, and the plan gets lodged with the United Nations, and the plan has to follow a format, an internationally set out format that the UN has set out. So it's not something we had complete carte blanche over. Okay.
So this is in response to that. Just finally, people that are victims of any form of abuse, what can they do? Because it just appears that there's such a slow response time if people do report it. What do we do? How is this going to help?
Look, it depends on the nature of the abuse. One important area to go to for assistance would be the equality courts, which deal with a violation of your right to equality. So if you've been racially insulted or you've been discriminated against on the basis of being disabled, for example, you can take the matter there and ask the court for a remedy, for some kind of compensation because of the way you've been treated. The equality courts are at every magistrate's court, every regional court, every high court. So that's somewhere to go. The other would be the Human Rights Commission. The hate crimes, hate speech bill is still in Parliament, so the criminalisation of some of these aspects still has to come into effect. But I really would urge that use is made of equality courts. Not enough. South Africans are not using equality courts enough.
Yeah, certainly. And I think exactly what you're saying, the criminalisation of certain aspects needs to be fast-tracked so that people can be held accountable for what they do and what they say. Thank you very much to the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffery, talking to us here on Morning Live. A rapid response team formed to respond to incidents of racism, xenophobia and related intolerance in South Africa, established as part of government's National Action Plan to combat racism, xenophobia and related intolerances. Just after 7:30, let's get our headlines.